first point, so there will not be too technical details. Okay,
Yeah.
welcome for everybody that showed up. We're about the same numbers as last year, but this is our third presence on the forum. So it looks like we're here to stay. So you can look forward to meeting us next year as well, hopefully. Warm welcome to all our panelists. So I will do a quick introduction, then everybody will say a few words about themselves. A warm welcome to Luka from Croatia, he's the owner of Bitcoin Portal. Mr. Ernest Frangowski from Deloitte, Poland. Then we have Dominik Strukal, he's director of Liberal Institute, Czech Republic. Then we have Mr. Mikhail Chubanian, he's the founder of Kuna Bitcoin Agency from Ukraine. And Mr. Jonathan Doria, founder of Bitcoin Malta. So, not necessarily in that order, is my guest a short introduction. Jonathan, will you start from the short introduction? Oh, sorry.
So, hello everyone, good afternoon. First of all, many thanks for inviting me to this forum. It's my first time here. Hopefully it won't be the last. So I'm very excited and pleased to be here. So my name is Jonathan Garia. I'm a lawyer by profession, but I've been involved in Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain technologies over the past 4 years. This year, in fact, we have founded the first non-governmental organization in Malta dedicated towards blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, and it's called Bit Malta. So we're basically aiming to advocate blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies to the general public in Malta, and also aim to educate the general public, as well as create connections between the various entities and industries, not least between the public and the private sector. Because we truly believe that in order for the public sector to gain a proper understanding of this technology, it needs to liaise very closely with the private sector, and that's basically our main aim. Thank you, Jonathan.
Me next, yeah. Hi, my name is Michael Chubanian. I'm from Ukraine. I represent the Bitcoin agency Kuna. It's a commercial project. We have the exchange, we have the OTC market. We do cryptomats. We launched a test pilot of the national cryptocurrency. I do a lot of public work. We communicate with the national banks, with the Commission of Securities Exchange. We do a lot of blockchain implementations into the government sector. Yesterday, for example, there was signed a treaty, and the first deal was done on the first decentralized auction based on the blockchain. That was the first government auction in the world based on the blockchain. So we do a lot of public stuff, and we try to export our expertise to Belarus, Russia, and Kazakhstan, where we do a lot of work as well.
Michael?
Hi, my name is Dominik Strukal from Czech Republic, from Prague. That's why I'm interested in Bitcoin, because in Prague there's a huge hub of people, which we created the first mining pool, we created the first hardware wallet. There's a coffee shop where they accept only Bitcoin. So in Prague it really lives with Bitcoin. And I am a director of Liberal Institute, which is the oldest classical liberal institute in Czech Republic. And this is why I'm interested in Bitcoin, not because we try to do things with the public sector, but because we don't like the public sector, so we want to escape from it. And this is why we like Bitcoin, generally speaking. And for a living, I teach at the university. Okay.
Hello, my name is Ernest Frangowski. I'm from Deloitte, Poland, and I feel that I'm a little bit overdressed here as a member of corporate world, the only one here. So basically, sorry for that. I'm from a division of Deloitte in Poland focusing on technology, especially in tax and financial business. So my role is to assess how this kind of disruptive technology like blockchain and Bitcoin could transform business of our clients, and I'm also responsible for all digital strategy of my company in Poland and Central Europe. That's why I'm here, and like Jonathan, I'm very forward for first time in the forum, in this event, so I'm very happy to be here.
Hello, my name is Luka Tancir. I come from Croatia. Also first time on this forum, so I'm really delighted to be here. I'm the founder of first Croatian Bitcoin portal. In 2014, it still is the top portal in our country that serves information, news about the industry. But my education background is from software engineering, and I have a digital agency with two founders where we do a lot of consulting for several US startups in blockchain, and we're also working on one project that we are launching in September, but maybe we'll touch on this point somewhere after the panel.
Thank you, economist. I have to say a few things about myself as well, I guess. So I'm Igor Pirs. I'm current president of Bitcoin Association in Slovenia. My primary role right now is to boost Bitcoin blockchain adoption to Slovenia, the Balkan, essentially the world, if it's prepared to listen. We are growing fast in Slovenia. We have very high accessibility of cryptocurrencies. Technically speaking, we can buy Bitcoin at any petrol gas station in Slovenia. So that's like covering the entire country with Bitcoin shops. Enough about me. We get this party started. For the first question, any of you guys want to answer it? Be my guest to take the mic. Would you guys say that we are approaching some sort of a stage when Bitcoin cryptocurrencies are becoming mainstream, and because all the news outlets are writing about it, we have the television presence practically every day. So in my vocabulary, we are in some sort of a second stage of adoption. So please comment on what you believe about this topic. Luka, you start in your neighbor country. So.
Sure. I'll just start, but I see that Dominic has also an interest. I could say definitely yes. It's you can see a lot of yet, for example, I can speak from Croatia standpoint in the beginning. We are still lagging behind, for example, Slovenia. But the mainstream media, we just read an article from Croatia's biggest newspaper about Bitcoin blockchains implementation and so on. So definitely they are catching up, and I think it's pretty much a consequence of the recent price surge, market increase, and value of the whole cryptocurrency market, and I think this caught a lot of attention on the mainstream media and general public. So, but this is good because it will drive now the technology and the startups, and people will go through one entry level, which is mostly now, I think, speculation, but go deeper and see what kind of technologies are being developed under this technology. Yeah, that would be from my side at least.
Luka?
Yeah, I have just 2 points. One is that we are still not mainstream because we're hidden here in the most hidden place of the whole conference. So still it's not mainstream, otherwise we would be in the other room there. But I'm glad that you are here because it gathers some attention, definitely. But our Vice Prime Minister in Czech Republic, he said something about Bitcoin. He wanted to say something about Bitcoin, so he said that he doesn't know what it is, and as far as he knows, no one is using it. So we tried to calculate somehow. It's really difficult. You have to estimate a lot of things. How many users are here in the world, and we think that it's not more than the users of Czech currency. So it's still in millions, probably 10 at maximum. So it's still very small, but it's growing bigger.
I don't know what in your countries, but I can definitely say that it's mainstream in my country. So I don't know a politician who hasn't said the word Bitcoin yet in Ukraine. We have about 5 members of parliament who actually declared that they own Bitcoin, and they stated in their tax declaration. We have judges who declared that. A prime minister is talking about Bitcoin. The head of national bank is talking about Bitcoin. You see the ads on the lampposts selling Bitcoin equipment. Well, I just answered the answer to the journalist from the top TV channel that he wants to do an interview. So this is like happening every single day. So it is mainstream. I'd also want to say why it is extreme. From what I noticed, and I've been in Bitcoin for like 4 years now, Bitcoin spreads really well in the countries where there's a structural problem with the banking sector and with the economy. So and Ukraine is leading the rankings of the worst countries where people don't trust the banking sector, or the most failing banking system. So because of that, people are looking for alternatives. And there are not that many alternatives apart from keeping cash, US dollars under your mattress, or looking at something else like Bitcoin. So that's why Bitcoin is really spreading really fast in Ukraine. So yeah, there is no alternative. I don't see any other alternative. Gold is too heavy. Cash, yes, okay, is widely accepted, so it's good. And Bitcoin is, it's like owning an offshore, which you know, this is my offshore. I go to any country and I keep my money with me, which is really good. And I'm the only one who's actually is able to spend them, which is different from the banking. You have to call a bank, please send money there, and so on and so on. This is really simple, easy.
So I'll start by going a step further and stating that our Prime Minister, our Maltese Prime Minister, has publicly embraced Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and in fact Malta is working on a national blockchain strategy. Apart from that, we have seen countries such as Japan, which has declared Bitcoin as legal tender this year, and also Australia, which is following on Japan's footsteps. So yes, I would say that Bitcoin is currently entering the mainstream sphere, although it is not there yet. Apart from that, we're also seeing several other cryptocurrencies which have been developed through what are called initial coin offerings, which are promising a viable product by next year. So I'm going to state, in fact, that I believe that next year will be the year where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies might actually become mainstream, way before anyone else would have thought. Now, it's also important to keep in mind that apart from other countries where, let's say, they look less favorably upon banks, we have to keep in mind that perhaps such other countries might look rather unfavorably upon other forms of currency which are not physical. So in other countries where digital money is widely in use and accepted, perhaps I might be able to accept Bitcoin even more easily, because it is another form of digital currency, albeit a decentralized one, and one which is secured by cryptography. But I would think that other, let's say, countries which are already using credit cards and so on, they might find the leap from that kind of payment method to Bitcoin a bit easier to handle as well.
So from Polish perspective, I would say that Bitcoin and blockchains are, I would say, technologies which are, if not mainstream, they are very close to mainstream. So basically, there are several examples for that. So first of all traditional media are trying, or they are starting to comment on that. You can see Bitcoin articles, researches almost everywhere in internet and traditional media, and also we have series of opinions from regulatory governments, so Ministry of Finance and their representatives, how to tax transactions related to Bitcoin. So that is the sign that is something which is in general landscape of common people. If official bodies are trying to develop to show how we should treat these transactions from a tax point of view. And I have one practical example of how this is in common and how it's typical to think on Bitcoin for people in Poland. So basically, when I were preparing to this panel, my cousin which is now based in London, in UK, she asked me via Facebook Messenger in which cryptocurrency she should invest. So what is worth to mention that my cousin is far from being IT specialist, so that's also kind of sign that is typical and quite popular thing in landscape of today's opinions of common people.
Thank you for very good answers. Hope you learned something about the state of Bitcoin in the world and specific countries from panelists. I would like to touch the blockchain itself subject. In my case, in Slovenia, we are getting approached on a daily basis by regulators, by government officials, and it seems to be that the entire world is like thinking about putting stuff on the blockchain, right? So like implementing identity systems, voting platforms. So the ideas are essentially endless. That's easier said than done. So I'm kind of afraid this blockchain is more like a hype word for them because they clearly don't understand the technology itself. I would like to make a small comparison about the fact that Bitcoin is an open, decentralized blockchain. That means the data on the blockchain is accessible to everybody that wishes to examine it. So if we want to compare a private blockchain, this is the interested part with the banks and the governments, they don't want every data to be available everywhere. So this is called a permissioned or a private blockchain. And now let's do the comparison with private blockchains to public blockchains like Bitcoin and compare it to the internet and the intranet. You know what internets are, all of you have them. These are your closed networks where you have a server and some computers accessing data internally. So what would you say, micropanelists? Did internet change the world as we know it, or did internet change it? So my question is, how do you feel about private blockchains versus public blockchains like Bitcoin? Come, maybe you start.
So, for the audience that maybe doesn't know what actually a blockchain is, it's generally a big ledger where you can store data in simple terms, just one-on-one. And everywhere where you need a proven track record of something, you can use blockchain. Is it voting? Is it property? Is it identity? There's many use cases. For me, I'm also a big enthusiast in the public domain to have this, to have like public blockchains, but I'm aware that some companies will have to use permissionless blockchains because of their, I don't know, corporate structure, legal stuff, and so on. Because I can see that I have a really good network of agencies in Croatia, and most every day I get an inquiry from a project manager or someone. Hey, I know you're doing this, you're doing some projects. I have a client that wants to do this, this, and this, and there is really a lot of interest from the real sector, from the IT sector that want to implement or tokenize or implement blockchain onto their existing business systems. And this is really happening. I can show you like emails today that I get on a daily basis. So, but for the part, the question was how we feel about permissionless and public blockchains. I think they will coexist definitely. And however, I would always vouch for public ones because they are more in the nature of blockchain idea, so to say.
I'll be quite radical. I would say that there is no such thing as a private blockchain, and I haven't seen one because it contradicts itself. The logic of blockchain, you said that it's an antithesis. The logic itself of blockchain is that you distribute the validation, and once you have it somewhere on one server or two, then it's not a blockchain anymore. You can do it in any other database. You don't have to use blockchain for that. And in many cases, and I have the same story, I have emails every day and phone calls how to implement blockchain in our bank, and mostly we come to the answer that it's not necessary, it's not useful, and then mostly it's just marketing. You just put in your, I don't know what's it called, at the end of the year in the annual report, you put on page 42, we are cool, we're using blockchain or researching blockchain, whatever. But no one has done anything cool yet, I think. At least I'm not aware of a project which would work on a private blockchain. And I think we will talk about other blockchain-based projects later, so come to that later.
I'll try and settle for middle ground and say that private blockchains can exist if they're sufficiently spread. So there's, for example, Everledger, which is a private blockchain designed to register diamonds. And it is a private blockchain. However, since the diamond industry is, of course, not a small one, it can work pretty well. Don't forget that a blockchain, as has been mentioned before, it's a ledger. It's a distributed ledger on a peer-to-peer network. Now, when you have a ledger of this kind, you have to appreciate the fact that the participants in this particular network, let's say the users of this ledger, have to secure that ledger against any external attacks. So a certain number of participants in the network are required to make the blockchain actually useful. So that's why the general idea is that the only sort of blockchain which can work is the public blockchain. However, I tend to disagree with that and say that large permissioned blockchains, private blockchains, can also work just as well with the right measures as well. I would then say, of course, that small private blockchains do not have much use. So in that case, the traditional methods would work just as good. I just want to reiterate the idea, however, that not everything can be put on the blockchain. So I've had some requests in the past where they want to put something on the blockchain. They say, okay, blockchain works for everything, right? No, unfortunately, that's not the case. But I would say that blockchain would work pretty well for almost any public-facing structure or idea.
Okay, thank you. So what we have learned now, that in fact public blockchains are the ones changing the world, and the private ones are just using the latest technology trends and hype words, so to speak, to spread some passive marketing and prove that they can be an innovation company. There's a lot of talk about the banking sector around private blockchains, but they fail to understand one thing. Bitcoin database is stored on approximately 7,000 computers right now, at this very moment. So this is a dream for every database. To have a database that can be destroyed. If you can destroy 6,000 computers, it doesn't matter. Those 1,000 computers will still serve that database. So this is the point of the blockchain. So if you have a private data center on a single location or maybe two co-location, and you have two servers distributing the database, you're not high availability. You still have two single points of failure. So if something happens to those servers, your database is gone. So that's why I believe the private blockchain sector is not really sure why they are planning to implement the blockchain. So in my opinion, the public blockchain is the one that will change the world just like the internet did. Okay, I would like to touch another thing that was also on your welcome notice on the panel itself. 10% of GDP will be stored on the blockchain by 2025. So, my dear panelists, this is a bold statement. It's not mine. I have no idea who wrote that, but it sounds kind of awesome. So, I would like some feedback on you if you think this is possible. So, we're talking about 10% of global GDP residing on some blockchain-based platforms. I didn't say necessarily Bitcoin, but so it's some sort of a global store of value. Would you think this is possible? Well, those are quite huge numbers.
Huge numbers, but if you look at the recent news, basically I think it was 5 days ago, last week, the major global banks announced they're creating their own coin on the blockchain. It will be on a private blockchain. Anyone read that news? No? Any hands? Okay. Well, apart from Bitcoin guys, obviously. But, yeah, so like the huge bank, we're talking about Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Citi. I don't want to, name all of them. I can't remember exactly, but this type of global banks, they're joining forces to create a new settlement coin. So that coin would be used to settle the balances between these banks instead of using, I don't know, whatever they use now, probably Excel or sometimes Swift to settle the US dollars or something, or SDRs from IMF, I don't know. But so they're creating that. And if you look at the size of these banks, then 10%, maybe, why not? It could be even more than that. And if you get the DTCC, which is the depository for the USA on board, and even take like, I don't know, 10% of them, that would add, a few more percentage to the global GDP as well. So I think it is quite possible, but only if the huge corporation join, and we see the first steps of that.
I think it's also important, so first of all I agree with your point, but it's also important to take a step back and see what the blockchain technology can actually do for us. Now, whenever there was a need by people in general, there was always some sort of technology, some sort of revolution which came in to fill that need. So when we had the Industrial Revolution, there was need for power. And the Industrial Revolution basically catered for that gap, the power gap. When people wanted to be connected with each other, there was the need for connection. And so the Internet revolution came along. Now, in 2017, we are seeing a need for trust between people without middlemen, without third parties. And the technology which can fill in that gap is precisely the blockchain technology. So I would say, Yura, that those figures which were mentioned are not unrealistic at all. I would actually say they're quite realistic, and that within the next 7 to 8 years, within the next decade, I think blockchain technology will truly take off and revolutionize the world as we know it.
Thank you. Want to touch the subject about banking? Oh, sorry.
So, being a member of a company like Deloitte, which is a consulting company, I have some insight on how large companies you mentioned, so all these banks, how they see their role and transformation of their business towards blockchain or cryptocurrency currency model. So basically, you said that this 10% is to be achieved by 2025. So basically, it's not so long time to achieve this number, and it's a great number. So basically, from my perspective, I think that, so in my opinion, I think that blockchain and cryptocurrencies, they will revolutionize the world, but not so soon. I think that 10% is impossible in this time perspective you mentioned. And basically, why? So the answer to this question is quite easy, because when you follow researchers and interest in blockchain technology and in cryptocurrencies, you see the most interest is in smaller countries, rich countries but smaller ones, and in central banks from not the biggest economies. So basically, it means that even we will face the situation where we have official cryptocurrency from, I would say, Scandinavia or Baltic states, because they do some research how it would be to have official cryptocurrency of their own. So basically, it doesn't allow to assess that this 10% number will be achieved in this time perspective. So that is the one factor. And the second one is the fact that as a consulting company, we see that we have a lot of, I would say, requests to assess how banking business should be transforming and how it will be impacted by cryptocurrencies. And what is seen from these researchers and from the approach of great or large financial institutions, that for the time being, there is no clear vision how we should transport large financial business into blockchain and cryptocurrency world. So I think that's also the background for saying that 10% in this time perspective it will be very hard to get.
Have any more comments on the subject?
Yeah, okay, so so the list of banks, 6 banks: Barclays, Credit Suisse, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, HSBC, MUFG, UBS, BNY Mellon, and State Street. That's just the list of banks who joined forces. Then, China is developing their own national cryptocurrency. Britain is developing their own national cryptocurrency. Ukraine will be the first country who will launch a cryptocurrency, hopefully by the end of this year. So just taking China and these huge banks, 10%, probably more. What's the stake of China in global GDP? Who knows? No one knows. But I guess it's big. It's the largest economy right now, yeah. so it's big. So 10%, and we still have 8 years, probably more. That's my guess.
I would like to see Bitcoin on rise, but I don't think so.
Not Bitcoin, blockchain.
But sorry, blockchain on rise. But unfortunately, I don't think so. The invention, the most important invention on Bitcoin and blockchain was on Bitcoin's blockchain was the set of incentives. What is truly interesting about it is how all the incentives works. That you have the incentive to put your capacity, your power, computer power to validate the transactions, and you have the incentive to do that because you get coins which have some monetary value. This is how it works on Bitcoin. But at these projects, I don't know who would use Chinese cryptocurrency, or if, then for how long, or how would it even work? There are these attempts with in Sweden, in Estonia right now. They're talking about it a lot, but no one can get the incentive as good as we had it with Bitcoin, and if it would be the same. And the problem is that you want to have, there is always a level of security, which is the higher is the number of people who are validating the number of nodes in the network, and how can you convince the people to do that work for you? And if not, then you are essentially, if you have just one node somewhere in the central bank, then you essentially have the same thing we have today. Now we have a digital currency, and it's an Excel, it's not on blockchain. So why complicate things, and why don't we have the things we have now? If you want to have real blockchain, then I can see only Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrencies, but they need to have the monetary value. So I'm quite skeptical, but I would love to see that.
Okay, thank you. Good answers. You will. Okay, I will follow up with another subject on the basis of banks and blockchains. So we all know there's no secret that almost all money is digital already. So it's just not on the blockchain. So it's a database. So we all use on a daily basis, where we store a lot of other information besides currencies and monetary purposes. So why would the banks actually need to put all this stuff on the blockchain? Why? Because they would seem in the world like an innovative bank. It will increase their security. It will cheaper their operations. So my question is, I think the banks are aiming at creating their own cryptocurrencies in like on a private blockchain, or is it about the marketing part, the innovation part? They just want to feel like they're doing something? Because from what I see, there are not too many people that are quite experts in cryptography and blockchains in the world. So if every company, if every central bank want to have an elite team of experts, the ones that actually know how to do this stuff, we are way short on staff right now, so to speak. So is this actually achievable for banks to implement? Because they're currently struggling with the PSD2 directive, which enables the API communications with all the banks. So this will effectively digitalize bank communications with other service layers. So why are banks even sniffing the blockchain? Because they have much bigger issues right now, and they have it until the end of the year to fix them. I mean, implement, sorry. Feel free to comment.
I will just make a short comment because I have the microphone. I totally understand that there should be something happening in the interbank banking sector. It's the same for decades, and it needs to be revolutionized somehow. I just don't see the blockchain there. For example, I totally understand why they look in Ripple technology. Ripple is even older than Bitcoin is, and it technically is not cryptocurrency. They don't even have technically blockchain, but we somehow like to call it cryptocurrency and blockchain, but it's not. So I see why they should do that, but I think that whenever we use blockchain or cryptocurrency in this matter, we're just trying to marketing better.
Two of the main benefits of blockchain technology are immutability and automation. Now, these two although they're just two words, they can provide huge benefits. So even just taking the simple case scenario of banks not having to actually manually confirm transactions, that would basically speed up the transactions. I don't know about how many times. So instead of having a SEPA transfer which takes up to 2 days, you have a transaction which takes place within seconds, or at most within minutes. That's one big benefit. Second benefit is that they will actually have a chance to drastically reduce their workforce, because due to automation, then again, most roles would become redundant. Keep in mind that the blockchain technology eliminates the need for middlemen. So just taking those two advantages into consideration, I would say that the banks have a lot to benefit from blockchain technology.
I would like to comment on the speed part. So the SEPA network is fast. It's over the internet. It's instant. So why is it taking so long for one guy to send money to another guy? It takes 1 or 2 working days.
Because there are money on
the
that.
payment network is essentially some sort of an SMS system, which it's instant. We have a public.
If I can comment on this, because it's my job actually.
Get the microphone right now.
Hey, tell me, George.
Please have a warm welcome from Mr. George. He's the professor of blockchain technologies at University of Nicosia. So listen very carefully.
So hey everyone, thanks for the great work you're all doing. So my perspective on this delay is that it has nothing to do with technology. So all the technology to do clearing and settlement in real time has been there for the last 10 years at least. And the blockchain is not going to change that. All the hurdles in increasing clearing and settlement time, whether that's for interbank transactions or whether that's for securities and stocks and bonds trading, are regulatory. And the fact that we need a lot of checks and balances between each trade, between all the counterparties that exist. So in Europe now with the T2, the Target 2 system, we have settlement for securities and funds, which is T, which is the day of the transaction plus 2 days. In the US, this is 3 days. So we can bring this down to instant now, but the regulation is not there yet, and it won't happen in leaps and bounds. And the technology itself, blockchain technology, is not going to change that significantly. So we should be looking at other things, not how many people we can fire or what kind of obstacles exist already in the existing system. So that was my comment. Thanks.
Thank you. It's a good comment. We have approximately 5 more minutes, then we will open the public discussion, so we can ask more questions. Would like to see it happen, so we have at least 15 minutes. So if anyone has something to comment on the banking integration of blockchains, I mean, these permission systems that are clearly being built. As Michael mentioned, this is not the first attempt from a banking group to try something. This is like a third or fourth attempt, if I'm correct. So essentially, to summarize, are there any benefits actually for banks, except firing a bunch of people for automation and saving a load of money? Or is it more like a hype, so we are a technical bank, we are moving things with the blockchain revolution along?
I would say it's the latter one. We just talked yesterday. There is so many startups coming up now in the IT sector, like digital banks and stuff that do money transfers, remittances, and everything much better, and they don't have blockchain implemented. So I don't know how they do it, but it's actually possible, right? And banks just have to keep up because they are really reliant on IT, and I think they are using now the whole push of cryptocurrencies and rise to jump on the board and go with the trend. And after all, banks are essential parts of economy, but they are also businesses, right? And I think they are also chasing one of the hypers, one of the uptrends of the whole market. That's my opinion.
There has been mention of actually approving manual checks and balances. And that's what the blockchain does. It eliminates the need for manual checks and balances to be approved, by actual people. So I tend to disagree and say that the blockchain can actually do much more for banks than what is actually being realized right now. In fact, that's why there's the Article Consortium, for example, which is working together with Hyperledger to develop various proof of concepts to see how they can best exploit the blockchain technology. It's important to keep in mind, of course, that the blockchain technology provides immutable transactions as well, an immutable record of the transactions. And I would say that the mutability of transactions is a problem which has long plagued not just the banking industry but various other industries, so this should not be taken lightly.
And for the last topic, this was not on the plan, but since it's all over the news last few days, or so to speak, I would like to start a discussion about the ICOs. These are initial coin offerings. So that we are clear, ICOs and these coins, these are not actually coins. These are tokens that reside on let's say, it's closed blockchain. So the number one is Ethereum, and all these ICOs that are coming out, have come out, are based on Ethereum. So there's a lot of discussion about these bans all over the world, acceptance on the other side of the world. So it's my point of view. In my point of view, there's a lot of scams going on there because people are just raising money for work they will never do, or for products they will never deliver. So I would like to some comments from my panelists on your experience with ICOs. Have you got involved with anyone?
Anyone heard ICO before today? Okay, quite a few. Okay, for the rest of you, ICO is a short for initial coin offering. It's abbreviation similar to IPO, but very similar on a cryptocurrency. So it's the way of crowdfunding money for your projects. So just the numbers, and during this year, it's probably about 2 billion already collected in ICOs, 2 billion US dollars. The largest one so far is about 200 or 250, yeah?
About 500.
500?
million.
Oh, it's something new. 500 million was collected during a few hours through the cryptocurrencies. And then compare that going to the bank. That's like the upside. The downside of that, it's because there is no rules of the game. What you do, if you want an ICO, for example, you have an idea. Anyone has an idea? Shout it out. Idea. Come on, you have an idea. Anyone has an idea for the business?
Magic internet money.
Go on, anyone is in business here, but it's all politicians. Okay, for anything. Like, we want to do a new conference. And we need for that, I don't know, $2 million. So what you do, you publish a so-called white paper where you say, okay, well, I'm going to do the conference. It's going to be there during these dates. So basically, you describe everything about your project, like you do when you go to the bank. And then you show your team, and then you show your business model, so you show up absolutely everything you can about your project. And you post it on the internet, on your website, and then you say, okay, I'm going to issue a special tokens, ICO tokens, so every single, I don't know, dollar in cryptocurrency you invest. And then you can use these tokens, for example, to get into the conference. So when the conference will launch, you can sell your tokens to the visitors who want to come to the conference. For example, this is like one of the business models. So through that, you can finance the something which will happen in the future. And it actually works. But the problem with that is that right now, about 99% of the ICOs which happen are true scams. So like, for example, the latest one I really love, in commas, is people are collecting money to create special satellites which will have the solar panels installed on them. And then it will collect the solar energy, convert it to electricity, and beam through the laser to the earth, where it will be converted back to the electricity. This is kind of crazy projects people are investing into. And the problem that the investors, again, so-called investors, is the most unprotected layers of the in any country. So that kind of people who get into the trap with the casinos and so on and so on. So from one side, it's really cool technology to collect money for your project. And for example, I used this technique back in 2015 to launch an exchange. So I did everything I described, I put it on the website, and I collected at that time 280 bitcoins, which at the time was 125 US dollars, 1,000 US dollars. And I used that money to launch the product, and in return I gave tokens which represent the so-called rights to demand dividends of the exchange. So when I go into the profitability, I'll distribute the profits with my investors. So that's kind of project you can do, and it's really cool, and it's really getting momentum. But the problem with it, it's so much, scams are going on with these solar panels. Anyone else? Yeah.
Every single day now I have on my Facebook feed a new ICO, and some of them are really crazy. Like today I've seen Denta Coin, which are dentists on blockchain. I don't even know what does it mean, but actually it's exactly as you said. You have an idea, so you put it on a blockchain. Now it will be blockchain based, and yes, I think we can paraphrase it with the movie title to sound cool. So there are the goods, the bads, and the uglies. And the good are some of them. There are interesting projects. I think technologically it makes some sense. I can think of Golem or Augur, for example. There is something new onto these projects. We can talk about them later. But there are a few of them. Then there are the bad, or let's start with the ugly. Those are the scams where they really want just to raise the money, raise bitcoins, and then escape somewhere. And the bad are just the projects which have an idea, but it's just why it's unnecessarily on blockchains, unnecessarily funded through Ethereum. You can just go to Kickstarter or find true investors. Why to issue a token for dentists? Maybe they have a good idea. I don't know. I haven't read the white paper, but maybe they have good idea. They know something about this industry. I don't know nothing about dentists, but if they do, then why to create a token for dentists, or whatever it is?
Yeah, so I'll keep it short. So I saw one also Lambo coin, so you can invest in, and become a part of community that will get Lambos later on. The coin rises in value. Lamborghini, yeah, of course. But for example, there are very good projects. You mentioned Augur. I invested in Augur before, and even though there are scams and they're all, I think this is just also a new way of crowdfunding, of raising investments for your project. And there will always be bad projects, even on Kickstarters that fail and so on, but there will always be good projects. And I think this really new way that tokenization can allow to fund those kind of projects. And this is just my opinion on that topic. But to keep it short, I'll let you wrap it up.
Be short, okay, Jonathan? Just a quick point. So first, because it was mentioned that ICOs and IPOs are very similar. I don't agree with that, because ICOs and IPOs are used at two completely different stages of a company. So an IPO is used by a company in pretty much one of its mature stages, so when they intend to go public. And they do the IPO to issue shares, which are basically rights of ownership in the company, as well as granting voting rights in the company. The ideal ICO, let's call it the ideal ICO, is used by budding companies which want to raise funding for whatever project they have. And they issue these crypto tokens not as a sign of ownership or profit sharing, but because they want to issue these tokens to the early believers who want to use their platform. I've been an advisor to various ICOs, and the first point to make clear is what value does your token have on your platform? Because if that token does not have any particular use for your platform, then I'm sorry, I can't accept to help you. I've had one person telling me, listen, I want to do an ICO. I want to issue these tokens, which are later redeemable for shares in the company. I told him, that's an IPO. He told me, no, I'm giving out tokens, so it's an ICO. I told him, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm very sorry. So again, these ICOs, they need to be regulated. Don't get me wrong, they need to be regulated. But I believe that the ICOs, the proper ones, are those which actually issue crypto tokens, which have a fundamental use in the underlying platform. And they do not promise future profit, they do not give ownership, and they do not give voting rights. In fact, over the past 3 months or so, out of the hundreds of ICOs, I've only invested personally in 5, because most of the others, I would tend to agree, they are either useless or they are scams.
Thank you. Just to finish up with the ICO discussion, in case you are tempted at some point to invest in this ICO business model, note 2 things. Research it hard, verify everything. When you have all your own analysis, post it on the internet and get some comments from the community, because they will straight up say the facts. By giving out money to the ICO company, you are effectively not becoming a part of the company. You don't own a part of the company. This is just something to get in return. And most people just spend those tokens that they get after the ICO is finished on the open market, and that's where anything can happen. So make note, contributing to ICO project, even if it's a good one, this is not like a company share. You don't own a company share, they don't own you nothing. So there's no promise behind those tokens. Okay? So be careful, stay away from ICOs. And if you do invest, research hard. Okay, so this is it for today. I'm opening up the questions and answers part, so don't be shy. I'm sure you have many questions. Please, anyone? Can you get a microphone? Front row?
Don't you think that ICOs are the final nail killing the IPOs? I mean, because we can see that young companies are not really going right now to go IPOs because it's not worthy. They prefer to stay private, right? And ICOs, which are quite popular right now, are giving them that opportunity to stay private, to be financed by, I don't know, venture capital or something like that. And finally, will cause the lack of new companies on the public market. Simply, don't you think?
Can I say the first line? Because in Slovenia we have many successful ICOs, and those companies are actually producing value for their token holders. I will not be marketing them right now, but you're right. ICO is a great way of raising money. But we saw what happened 2 days ago. China put a stop to the ICO BS. Because, like colleagues said, 99% are pure scams and just not for your money. And those tokens will have some value, but it will not be decided by how much the company is performing well with their business model, but it will be decided by the open market. So somebody will essentially get an outgoing price, and from that, things will follow. But that's not a promise of value. The company has to work on their project and deliver the integration of the token itself into their business model, business platform model, whatever they're building. Otherwise, it's just useless. Otherwise, it's just crowdfunding, and you are essentially, sorry for the language, screwing off your investors. Okay, comment?
No, it's a very good comment, a very good answer. I would say that currently companies are going for ICOs rather than IPOs because of the lack of regulation. But mark my words, I mean, regulation is coming, it's coming pretty soon. China was the first mover, well, I would say the US was the first mover when the Securities and Exchange Commission actually said that most ICOs would most probably not pass their Howey test. So we've got the US, we've got China. I would say that regulation is coming pretty soon, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because it would mean that most of the bad actors would stop using ICOs in a wrong manner. But I would say yes, that we have to wait until regulation is in place, and then we'll see the next generation of proper ICOs.
Can I comment on ICO? I actually got an idea for an ICO while we were discussing it, so I will put it for last. So it's a good business model. Last row. Can I have the microphone, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for this very interesting debate that you have. I'm from the public transport sector, focusing on ticketing. And assuming that in the next years we'll have a move towards account-based, ID-based ticketing schemes, we hear now more and more voices from large transport operators about blockchain. Any suggestion from your side how our sector should approach this question?
question that arises more questions that are not necessarily connected to one another. So you want to simplify the tracking systems, payment systems. So
basically the financial transactions from the back office between the clients and the operators.
Can I answer this question? You're the transport industry. Money is not your business, so that's the business of national banks and financial companies. So no, I don't see anything that you can use on the blockchain. So just skip it.
But you can integrate if you have a smart application already for like reserving parking, paying the parking fees. You should look into topping up if you have a top-up solution. So I can, let's say for example, I can top up my app with some money, and I have funds for the parking at hand. So just integrate cryptocurrency, integrate multiple payment systems. So this is your use case. But in transport logistics systems, there are some use cases for vehicle tracking, if you connect to GPS platforms. So, but you don't need to build your own blockchain. You need a service provider who will sooner or later will pop up, and it will offer some kind of integration services via APIs. You will connect your existing infrastructure with that service provider. Of course, they will charge you for that. But you will have a simplified tracking system with cryptographic proof that things actually occurred. So you can use the blockchain for timestamping these specific points in the transportation industry. So there are some projects, I don't know the names. I think 2 startups are already dealing with the transportation industry. Maybe if I look it up later. But you know, Google is one of the things. Any more comments on the gentleman's question?
Thank you. I want to ask about the running process of Bitcoin. Because, as I understand,
Sorry, the first line, what process?
the
running process.
Running process. As I understand, it runs on trust. It based on trust because it is not indexed to a specific gold, because source is not clear. Who is the founder? For example, dollar belongs to US. And I just asked this question to Jonathan at the road, and he suggests me he will speak here. Maybe I missed that point. If it's possible, some of our fellows professionals would explain it.
So can you please repeat the question? I didn't catch the last part.
I mean, if in the future, specifically, if in the future the union, for example, EU union or the union of banks, they accept a new decision that Bitcoin is blocked. Bitcoin will not be funded, or in this EU, Bitcoin will not work. They will limit it. So, how can we invest? We don't know the future if they will make a decision like this or not. Okay, how are you sure that in the future EU Union will not accept like this decision that Bitcoin will be blocked?
So I would say that Bitcoin entered the limelight back in 2013 thanks to a very notorious case, which was the Silk Road case. Silk Road basically was an underground website accessible on the dark web where they sold drugs and other illicit items, and the currency of choice was Bitcoin. That was how Bitcoin came to be known to the general public. Now Bitcoin is becoming, let's say, more legitimate because they're recognizing that Bitcoin itself was not built for legitimate transactions. However, if the EU or any other regulatory body were to ban Bitcoin, then I would just say that they are basically like ostriches burying their heads in the sand and allowing Bitcoin to thrive elsewhere, rather than having their sights on it. Bitcoin, I would say, has become too big to fail. It has a market cap of over $80 billion US. However, of course, that must not be taken for granted, and we just accept that Bitcoin is the only viable cryptocurrency out there. I would make quite, let's say, a statement and say that Bitcoin is far from perfect. It has problems of scalability, it has problems of governance, and I don't believe Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency which will become the main cryptocurrency in the next decade. But again, banning it just because such regulatory bodies don't understand it would be a very, very big mistake. They tried doing that 3 years ago, it didn't work.
Can I more aggressive reply there, because every time I get this question, I tend to not be too political, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it. How many of cryptographers you know personally? You know anyone? People that expertise in this securing our internet as we know it. A few, maybe, some colleagues of yours. Okay, so most of them are most likely have some Bitcoin, are involved in Bitcoin, or having to develop it, and research it, improve it, whatever. So are you sure, like a state like a European Union should ban the usage of public private cryptography and essentially stab the back of every security specialist right now, and still then later on say, hey, please can you help us with our national token, national blockchain, bank, blockchain, blah, blah, blah. So.
I just wanted to say one thing. If you look at the history, all the money we used in the civilized world, at least in the Western world, were nationalized at one point of time. And I don't see it happening with Bitcoin. It's technically impossible. So we don't have a guarantee that the state will not do anything with that. But do you have it with gold? And it happened in the past. It's not just a possibility. They nationalized gold. So here, I think that the most important thing is that you don't have a single point of failure. So it makes even better. But we don't know. It's not a guarantee, but it's better than what we had before.
Thank you very much. Okay. Our time is actually up. Thank you all panelists for coming. Thank you again. Hope you were educated, hope you learned something new. Hope you will do your research more when you come home, because essentially this is so powerful new technology that you must research it on your own. Then make up a list of questions, and people like us can then fill the gaps. Thank you very much.
Let's say to everyone that we can stay outside and keep
of course, you're all invited outside if you have any questions. Thank you.